for the USDP.
That's no problem. That's like one guy who walks up and
Yeah, just the room camera, because we'll see which one sounds cleaner. I'm recording both from the mics only and from that. And we'll see which one.
Hey, Freeland.
So jealous. I already am ready to go. I'm using
Enjoy the little. All right, let me call the regular Board of Education meeting to order this April 8th at 6:30 p.m. Please silence or turn off all electronic devices. Could you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance with the flag back in the room?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mrs. Johnson, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Bianchini. She's absent. Camardo.
Here.
Friedland. Here. Grimpy.
Here.
I am here. Pfister.
here.
Ronstadt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let me entertain a motion in a second to go into closed session for the matters of personnel and negotiations at 6:31 p.m. Motion.
Second.
Moved by Ronstadt, second by Pfister.
6:31, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
6:31. And it was moved by
Ronstadt and Pfister seconded.
Okey-doke. Okay. Pfister,
Yes.
Friedland,
Yes.
Grimpy.
Yes.
I vote yes. Ronstadt,
Yes.
Camardo.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk about Bob.
You're not supposed to tell them that.
Rude. Okay. Somebody's wound up.
Ryan,
I would never.
The back.
Oh, yeah, but
that's still like.
Wow. That's so cute.
Yes.
That's adorable. So I've known her.
Yep, yep.
Peyton got into it in the COVID-ish time and was making stuffed animals, but with like big, like the real big, thick.
Yep.
She made some really cute ones. So
Yeah.
I was impressed. Some of them were really ugly, but some of them were really nice. Bees were her thing. And so our babysitter saw her in Cuba. She made like a whipped orange bee. And yeah, they were cute. That's really cute.
Yeah. So if you click on closed session.
Hot chocolate. I need
Then
it.
you're going to your take action.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then you're
all
gonna
that.
click on this and drop down.
get one pass.
And go to session.
All right, so let me get a motion in a second to resume an open session at 7:16.
Motion. Second.
By Ronstadt. Could you please call roll?
Camardo,
Yes.
Friedland,
Yes.
Rimpey,
Yes.
I vote yes, Pfister,
Yes.
and Ronstadt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. Looking over the consent agenda, are there any items that a member would like to remove and further discuss, or is there a question of clarification? Okay, hearing none. We get a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda in its entirety, which would include the following: Board of Education meeting minutes from March 11, Board of Education closed session meeting minutes from March 11, personnel report, actual payrolls, bills and checks, and the electricity contract.
Moved.
Second. Moved by Pfister, second by Friedland. Could you please call roll?
Pfister,
Yes.
Camardo,
Yes.
Ronstadt,
Yes.
Rimpey,
Yes.
Friedland. Yes. And I vote yes, motion carries.
Fantastic. And next up is RTEA comments. Bob, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. On behalf of the RTA Executive Board and the entire membership, I'd like to thank the Board of Education and the administration for the excellent ongoing working relationship that we continue to have. I'd also like to give congratulations to Mrs. Pfisterer, to Mrs. Friedland, to Mr. Ronstadt and Mr. Grimpy for winning your recent election. Deserve a round of applause. I'm very excited to be continuing to work with you all. It's been quite wonderful in the past, and I can anticipate the same going forward. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is visitors' comments. At this time, I'd like to recognize any members of the audience who approach the board with their comment or question by completing a visitor comment card. Please do note that the board and administration typically will not respond, and if you wish for a response, please provide your name and number or email for a member of the board or administration to get back to you. Speakers are encouraged to limit their time for others to participate. A 3-minute time limit per speaker with an overall 60-minute maximum for visitor comment per our current policy. Hearing none, we'll move forward to the board communications, and this is an open agenda item for board members. Anyone who'd like to discuss anything or bring anything up?
I'm happy to talk about McTeacher Night.
Awesome.
At every school. No, I'm just kidding. The River Trails middle school one was extremely fun. It's always a great time to see teachers who do everything all the time for all of our students also dress up as apple pies. So I appreciate everyone's dedication and I mean the extended hours and everything else. It was just really fun to see some of our middle schoolers who don't like to act like kids anymore act like kids. So it was very fun to see. And then also, and hopefully I'm not stealing anybody's ideas, but the Little Mermaid performance. Well, and you can talk to it too, because your daughter sang the heck out of that chef role. So it was wonderful, and you can always tell the effort and dedication that Mr. Flowers puts into it. And I know that I'm sure the rest of the band and orchestra team, our entire music department really put in a lot of time and effort, and it was just a wonderful production, very fun. So it was delightful.
Ditto on Little Mermaid. It was great.
And you know what, it was great to see a lot of the board, the kids represented, which was nice. So congratulations, you guys as parents. I was first time having a participant in the performance, so it was nice to see that. Yeah, but to your point, it was great. Anybody else?
I listened to The Little Mermaid on YouTube, actually. So that was great that it was broadcast live. I wasn't able to make it in person, but hearing the music in the background while cleaning the house was a win-win. So thanks, Stephanie, if you were in charge of that.
Anybody else? All right.
Next up is district recognition, and Dr. Merkley, you have the floor.
Okay, well, I didn't invite everybody tonight, but it is a good time of the year to celebrate our newly tenured staff. So we have Stacy Alexikos, Mary Beth Bernert, Laura Shmura, Ken Chung, Courtney Dion, Emily Jaros, Alex Koliopoulos, Rebecca Milos, Jen Pucci, and Jess Zaida, earning tenure at the end of this year. Yay. You know, I would just kind of say, in summary, these guys have been a great addition to our staff as instructional teachers, but also just bringing and growing our sense of community. Many of these teachers, you'll find coaching, you'll find doing clubs and after-school things, connecting with the kids. So it's really a really nice group to celebrate. So I'm very excited for them. I also wanted to take the opportunity just to remind you or bring back to your attention that tenure has changed. So if a staff member was hired before 2023, tenure has been 4 years for quite some time. However, that has recently changed. So tenure is now, for most staff this year and moving forward is 3 years, 3 consecutive school years. However, they do have an accelerated tenure. And so we do have a couple of folks on that list who have been with us for 2 years, but they have gotten back-to-back excellent ratings, which accelerates their tenure. So I'm not sure if I ever explicitly explained that to you guys, but just know that these are not all 4-year folks. That is kind of a mixed bag now moving forward. So well earned.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of our newly tenured staff members. Next up is new business, education services. Christy, you have the floor.
Dr. Seifert, sorry. Keep it official.
Good evening, everybody. I want to start by apologizing for making your board packet long this month, so I appreciate you taking the time to preview the materials as we talk about a lot of exciting things that are happening in the district in the area of curriculum and student learning. So I'm really going to have three main focuses of the evening this evening. I'm going to start out just doing a review of our curricular audits for this year, the things that have happened this year, and give you a short little preview of what's to come next year, and also a handout on what's to come in the years following that. Then I'm going to spend a little bit of time telling you about the overall curriculum review process and what a curriculum audit really looks like, and trying to parallel that with what it might look like when you're either interviewing for a job or interviewing someone and hiring someone for a job, to kind of create that deeper understanding of the processes we go through year after year after year as we look at different content areas. And then finally, I want to bring to you this evening our recommendation for our middle school ELA adoption for the 25-26 school year. So I thank you in advance for your time as we talk through these things this evening. So to start out, I just wanted to give you an overview of where we were at in terms of our curriculum review cycle this school year. We've had three big things happening within the district. First and foremost being the middle school ELA curriculum audit. The middle school ELA curriculum audit has taken course over the entire school year, coming to really a culminating point tonight that you're going to hear a lot about later. In addition to that, Alicia's been working very closely with Sandra in terms of our curriculum for our coding program that we run through the middle school. So we offer both beginning coding, intermediate coding, and when we can, robotics programming for students. And so they're working on realigning that with the standards, looking at the current technologies that we have. We are going to need to make some replacements with some of those technologies as things are getting old and new technologies are coming. So they are working through that and about ready to wrap that up for this school year. And then last but not least, we've been looking at our materials to support our multilingual learners. As you've heard about several times over the course of the school year, we had an influx of especially newcomers at the middle school this year, which has allowed us the great opportunity to experiment with some new materials in adopting some materials for them that is also being used by High School District 214. So that's where we spent the majority of our time this school year. Looking forward to the 2025-26 school year, we will be leaning into our other STEAM courses at the middle school, looking at Mrs. Polenzani and Ms. Nice's classrooms and how they are teaching their innovative classrooms, and are those resources and materials still meeting their needs. We will be taking a very big step into the area of elementary English language arts. That will probably be where we spend the majority of our time next school year, looking at all the new research surrounding early literacy, foundational skills, and comprehension instruction, and making some good decisions for our elementary learners. And then last but not least, looking at our materials for our middle school social studies program. So that's just a quick preview of what's to come both this year and next year. All of these will be funded either out of my district departmental budget, Title IV for innovation, or Title III for second language programming. I also included in your board packet just a snapshot of a preview of what the next 5 years might look like, so that you kind of see what's coming as the years progress, and what I'll probably be coming to talk to you in March or April next year. Okay. All right, so moving on to the fun topic of tonight, I would like to talk to you a little bit about our curriculum review process. And like I said, I would like to parallel that with what you might consider a hiring process in our individual worlds. So as I was reflecting on the best way to bring this information to you this evening regarding a curriculum cycle, but most specifically our River Trails Middle School ELA adoption, I decided to merge content into one and bringing a personal experience with that. So whether we've been on the side of hiring someone or we've been a candidate, we all have some familiarity with the hiring process. The reason I chose to pair these two is because they really do follow a very similar scope of work, a very similar pattern. And I thought about, in comparing these two, it might help you kind of deeper understand what we do every year as we bring these recommendations to you. I thought I might parallel it to a dating app or a dating thing, but I thought I'd keep it professional and we would just stick to the hiring process. So that's where we will lean into this evening. So here we go. So as we begin this entire process, we really look at it as a cyclical process, and we pretty much timeline things in a 5 to 6 year cycle. And the reason for that is because in 5 to 6 years, new research can emerge, technology is greatly enhanced, and different movements in our society shape the way people think about how students learn best. We stick with a 5 to 6 year cycle because it gives us time to really put things in place, to see how they're working, to monitor, to implement, to measure, but they also give us that flexibility if things aren't working the way that we want them to, that we have that ability to pivot and change. In a school district, it also allows us that opportunity to really balance our budget over the course of several years so that everything is not coming up for curricular refresh at the same time. So very similar to a hiring process where staff come and staff go and cycles come and cycles leave, that's really how the curriculum process works. So where does it all begin? It all really begins with making a decision on identifying our priorities. So when we're hiring someone into a job, we really look at the person leaving, what were they doing well, what other strengths, what could they have brought to the table, and now what does the job require? It's really the same thing when we're thinking about curriculum. When we're trying to figure out what we need in a curriculum, we need to ask our staff, we need to ask our students, we need to look at the data. So when we started our ELA pilot, we did just that. We surveyed our teachers, we reviewed our data, and we began to identify our strengths and our weaknesses. And in looking at that, we started to create, in a sense, a job description because we needed to know what type of candidate we were looking for this program. So at RTMS, our teachers at every grade sat down and really worked together on this. Then we had a small group of teachers representing 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and accelerated programming sit down to really look at the data. They also looked at different rubrics and evaluation tools that were used by other districts that were recommended by the state to make good recommendations on what the criteria would be for our audit. And from there, they left that time together with a review audit that I included in your board packet this evening. Those were really our guiding principles and our priorities as we sought to seek the best candidate for the job. We knew that since our last adoption with HMH in 2017, there had been many advancements made, especially in the area of technology, the area to enhance the student experience with different technological tools, and a lot of information out there on how to better differentiate for a variety of learners. So we did realize at this time it would be best for us to look at some new materials to support our learners. So once we had crafted our job description, we took our first step in launching into the process. And this is really where we start reviewing the candidates. We become recruiters. So in the job industry, we would call this reviewing resumes, and it's very, very similar with curriculum. So this committee of teachers really sits down and begins looking at the candidates, and this is typically done by reviewing third-party evaluations, white papers, research, internal criteria, and of course talking to our neighboring school districts to see what's working for them and maybe what's not working for them, to start to really lean into what's available. For our middle school team, we began this process by really digging into a resource available to us called Ed Reports. And from there, we were able to narrow our broad search to probably about 6 or 7 different sets of materials. But before we could really fully evaluate these materials in alignment with our priorities, we reached out to the publishers. And the publishers are very generous about sending us both physical and digital materials for our teachers to really dig into and compare that to our priorities. We saw a lot of things standing out across all of these newer curricula. Number one was the ability to translate materials into a variety of different languages that was not present for us before. Number two was embedded teacher supports. And a lot of this came from utilization of AI technology, which Alicia talked a lot about in her presentation in March, and how AI is being brought into a lot of these new curricula to help the teachers from the planning front. And third and finally, the adaptive digital platforms that are available for students that can really differentiate based on the needs that they're bringing into the classroom. Some of the curricula we were reviewing at this time, they hadn't really launched into these realms yet, so they were removed from the list as we narrowed our field. And it might be frozen, sorry. So, following the paper screening or the resume review, we really set up some what we would call initial interviews. And we met briefly with publishers, very similar to what you might call a screening interview of sorts. And this allowed us to get a snapshot of a program. We asked questions, we gathered initial impressions to determine which products really determined needing a potential deeper dive. These interviews are short, sweet, and to the point. Prior to these meetings with publishers, we hand them a copy of our rubric. We want them to know what we're looking for. We want to be as transparent as possible so that they will tailor their presentations to best meet our needs. So we sit down with them, we listen, our teachers take notes, and we try to get a good understanding of the curricula and what it offers to us. And then following these interviews of sorts, our team spends time reflecting. They reflect about what they heard, but they also reflected on what questions do they still have. And those questions then led to the next part of their review, which was digging in the materials to try to find the answers. Once all of this time is spent looking at all of these different curricula, they really start to narrow down and prioritize what they think are really the best of the best materials to fit our priorities. And this is where we decide whether or not to advance our candidates to kind of that final round of formal interviews. At this point, we're done with our paper screenings. We've interviewed, we've gone through that screening interview, and now it's time to really get to know the candidate better. So maybe compare this to when Jody had to go out and interview with the board during the superintendent screening process, right? It's the board interview, it's the big interview. It's the one where we really get to those tough questions. And that's exactly what we do. We want to get thought-provoking questions on the table that we really wonder about as we dig into these curriculum. So this is what we call our pilot stage. We're still asking questions. We're still trying to get to know these curricula better. However, we're getting our answers by experiencing the curriculum. This is when we're putting the curriculum in the teacher's hands in front of students. We're going through lessons, we're going through units, we're trying out assessments. We're having the students experiment with the digital platform. So at River Trails for our ELA pilot, we chose to do this in 2 different chunks. We set aside 6-week time frames for each of the 2 curricula that we were at this point with. We had our teachers initially trained on the materials, and then we had them use them within their classrooms for 6 weeks. At the end of those 6 weeks period, the teachers came back. We surveyed them on the priorities to see how well what they saw happening in the classroom related back to the priorities, and then we moved on to that second set of materials and we did the same, and then came back to the table to really make our final decision. So finally, the most important part of the entire process, and this is the final reflection. So before kicking off this step, we really needed to connect back with those priorities on the journey. This is really important, just as it is in a job interview. People can be charismatic, people can be engaging, but can they really do the work? And that's what we wanted to find with these curricular materials. Things can be fancy, things can be pretty, technology can look amazingly innovative, but when the rubber hits the road in the classroom, we need to know and we need to be confident if we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars that these materials are going to be effective with our kids. So that's what this conversation really leans into. As we reflect on our priorities and our data, we need to try to get our team to consensus. Being a small school district like River Trails, when we have 7 or 8 teachers at a grade level, it is so very important to have everyone around the table reaching an agreement. When you're in a larger school district and a few people are making a decision for many, many people, that consensus is not possible. But in our small district, it is possible. It just takes time, effort, and collaboration. As the board knows, we've been working on our skills of collaboration for many, many years, and I'm very happy to say that finding consensus with this team, and you probably remember me saying this last year with the math team, was incredibly easy. They came down, they sat down, they had honest conversations, and I would say as a group we reached consensus in less than a half hour's time. I'm super excited to continue to work with our ELA team on this movement next year because they're so engaged and they're so invested and really they're so excited about the materials that they may have in their hands very, very soon. So where do we go from there? From there we try to launch the partnership, and this really starts with negotiations, trying to be responsible with taxpayer money, trying to get the best adoption rate from the publishers while making sure we have everything we need to teach effectively. And I do feel like in a few short minutes when I'll share our recommendation that we were able to reach that. And then last but not least, we can't forget about professional development. Sorry, slide is stuck. And I compare this to onboarding. When we bring in a new staff member and we want them to be successful within our organization, we need to make sure that they have the tools in order to be successful, the training to do so, and the time to learn. And that is absolutely the same when we are learning new curricula, when we're learning how to use materials in our classrooms to teach our precious students. We would never put a new employee in a job without training and support, and so we need to make sure that we keep the time and the space and the place and the environment for our teachers to be able to learn and grow with new materials as we adopt them into our district. So this is something that we strategically lay out at the end of a pilot, at the end of an audit, to go for a full 2 years out to make sure that we're putting all the professional development in place as we move through that initiation stage. With our materials recommendation that we're making, I'm so excited about the unique and different types of professional development they're offering now for teachers. I'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the recommendation. But curriculum designers are getting very innovative and creative with the way that they are making learning accessible to teachers. So I'm super excited about that opportunity. So I hope this analogy has allowed you to better understand the process we go through with a curriculum review process and a curriculum audit in our district. The subject or topic really does not matter. We follow a similar process for each and every content area. Having this familiar system brings structure and comfort to our employees as they engage in some really highly emotional decision-making situations and conversations. So I want you as the board to know that when we're purchasing new material, we're making a commitment to these materials, that we are going to put them in place with integrity to provide all students in our district with the highest quality learning environment. And we're giving our teachers tools that will make their jobs not only easier, but help them feel more effective in the work that they do. Are there any questions at this time about the curriculum audit procedure?
I just had one.
Please.
So we're doing elementary school next year at ELA. Do you think that this process, I guess, something you can build upon, or you've learned about some of the curriculums that could apply? Like, would you be able to whittle down the process faster?
In terms of the investigation, in some cases, the one thing that is significantly different from elementary to middle school is really that robust foundational skills component of a curriculum. Where yes, in middle school curriculum, we still need to lean into foundational skills. In elementary, it's essential. So the materials that we reviewed for the middle school, they really didn't have that component, so that will definitely take us some time in elementary.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to my recommendation. In front of you, you have one last memo from me regarding the middle school ELA curriculum. I am not going to go into all the details of the audit again, as I did that previously, but I would like to bring a recommendation to the Board of Education this evening to adopt the Into Literature HMH with writable platform for a 6-year term beginning in the 25-26 school year. This recommendation is based on feedback, comprehensive rubric-based evaluation, and alignment with our district priorities, as I stated within the presentation. I spoke very briefly about the professional development opportunities offered through HMH. I did want to spend some time now just filling you in on some of the things that they have to offer for teachers. Number one, they have live and virtual trainings available to teachers pretty much on demand. If there's a topic or something embedded in the curriculum that they're interested in learning more, they can sign up for webinars. If they can't attend, they're emailed to them. Very easy to get their hands on any sort of PD within the program. Number two, we have we're recommending purchasing a package that has one-on-one coaching licenses. So basically, they will be paired with an HMH Into Literature coach, where if they're struggling with something, they can email the coach and say, hey, can we set up a 1-hour session? Hey, can we set up a 30-minute session? I want to learn a little bit more about how to use the signposts for comprehension instruction, or I don't understand how to use this element of the digital platform. Can you meet with me? And they can meet with their one-on-one coach an unlimited amount of times over the course of the school year. They have interactive technology boards, they have recorded webinars, they have chatbots. Really, they have so many different resources available to teachers in addition to the live PDs that we will be offering through implementation. I'm very excited about the resources available to the teachers there. They also have a component of this curriculum called Writable. Writable is an add-on to the purchase. It is included in the quote in front of you. And it is an interactive writing platform that is aligned with the curriculum that basically gives students on-demand feedback for their writing based on the rubrics before they're submitting to their teachers. So students can go through that revision phase multiple times before they're submitting to their teachers for final review. Or they can submit it, their teachers can use the tools within the platform to provide some feedback, send that back to the kids for them to continue working on their writing. If you've ever been in an elementary classroom during writing time, you've seen a table, you've seen kids coming to them, you've seen a long line of students as their teachers are waiting feverishly to try to help them as much as they possibly can quickly. So the way this tool is embedding some additional support through the use of AI and technology, it's just absolutely amazing. And I'm super excited about it. Ms. Lisowski has been eagerly awaiting to get this up and running within her classroom because it is really just a very, very dynamic tool. And with many of the buildings working on writing as a goal this coming year, it's another exciting tool available to us. So finally, down to the financial impact. The total cost of this adoption over the course of 6 years, it will not exceed $139,000 for this 6-year term. This includes all the student and teacher materials, full online access for students and staff, the writable platform integration, and all of the professional development over the cost of the first year. This will be covered by my teaching and learning budget for 25-26. Any questions?
Yeah, you're a little confused here. The evaluation that we have here looks like it's the template?
The evaluation rubric? Yeah, that's the template that we use to evaluate.
Okay, but it's showing all like unscored and there's no evidence.
Yeah, it was just the template of it. So that was what we used. I didn't include the actual data of the different ones in there. It was just the template for you.
Anybody else? So I have a question. When you presented the math curriculum last time, one of the things that I was very impressed with and sold on was how it can identify people, students who can get into advanced, not just in 6th grade. Do we have that luxury with this program as well?
The on-ramps?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we absolutely do. Because it is so similar, because there's the vertical alignment from year to year and curriculum to curriculum, what we typically do for advanced is we provide students instruction in that next grade level set of materials. We would continue to do that within this program. The nice thing this program offers to us is they have a 9th grade curricula, where many ELA programs do not. They cap out at 8th grade. This is a 6th through 12th curricula, so it allows us to have that continuation of practice from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then students going into 9th. It follows similar instructional strategies across all grade levels, similar vocabulary, similar academic vocabulary, so students will easily be able to transition up to a higher grade level at any point and be hearing similar language, seeing similar systems of instruction in classrooms.
Great, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions?
Is there a reason you didn't share the completed rubric with us?
I just didn't have, I didn't have all of that data within the report. I can definitely do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it just so we know.
Sure. It's on a it's on a 0, 1, and 2 scale, that where it says unscored on there.
Yeah.
We really found that we hit the mark in all targets within this. On those areas we were able to assess within a 6-week period. So the second part of that rubric, the assessment pieces, because we weren't teaching full and complete units, we weren't necessarily able to really see the robustness of the assessment platform in that short amount of time. So some of them will still be unscored, and we had modified surveys to address that. So I can share.
Yeah, I think we can understand it's a bit of a work in progress, right?
Well, and I will say, like, included in her document is that outcomes. So if you look at that, it gives a lot of information. It's actually it's in your memo.
The memo.
Yes.
Correct.
So if you look at that part, I think that's probably a really good, like, high level bit of information that kind of goes over the whys and the hows of what they were looking at in terms of evaluating. It's kind of hidden in there. It's a link.
Oh, it's a link.
Yeah,
okay.
sorry. Oh, I mean, it helps if I use the correct terminology. It is a link.
Okay, that'll do it.
Go ahead, Anna.
When you're looking at the curriculum cycle,
Mm-hmm.
do you articulate with the high schools to find out what our deficiencies are? So that when you're looking at the new curriculum, you're looking to fill those gaps?
Mm-hmm. Actually, we just met with the, I don't know Jeffrey's title.
The person.
Yes,
The
yes.
person in charge.
They have a very, very robust dashboard of student data available to us that tracks not only our students that are going into, this is 214 most specifically, where the majority of our students go, tracks their placements as freshmen, but also tracks their success, their GPA, and their grades as they go into 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade based on the placements. It tells us the percentage of our students we're placing in each level, as well as percentages of other districts and how they're placing into those levels. So we can follow that and we can track that. And then we also have connection with their division heads on a regular basis to see how well our students are coming prepared and what areas they need continued work on. One of the areas that always is part of conversation is writing. And making sure that we're building the student's ability to write. And I think that's something that we've seen over the course of the last several years is our students' writing skills are not as strong. So that was part of the rationale behind adding writable onto this quote, was to really give us a robust tool to make writing a little bit more accessible within the classrooms.
Okay, thank you.
And now the plan is to have this in the consent agenda unless there are any major objections to approving the curriculum. So it's kind of a speak now or see it in the consent agenda. Yes, sir.
No objections, just questions.
Sure.
I think my favorite presentation of the year. Nice.
Thank you.
Like
Thank
it.
you.
I love the analogy to this.
Thank you.
Well done. So I imagine most of these publishers have very similar competing curricula, which is, you're splicing hairs. So what made HMH?
HMH.
HMH?
So we
finally
actually have
rise above
HMH
that.
right now. We have HMH collections. We are not thrilled with HMH collections. It's 8 years old, 7 years old, and it's run its course. What my teachers found with Into Lit, because they also were very heavily, they fell in love with the other one first. And I think I told Dr. Megerly, they're going to go this way. And then when they test drove it and we really got into that pilot phase, the texts weren't accessible to kids. They didn't find them rigorous enough. They felt like they were fine for some levels, but for other levels, that they were just way too easy. And they're like, this just isn't bringing it. So with this text, or with this curriculum, the kids loved the stories. They were engaged in reading. It was very easy to differentiate a text to a variety of different reading levels so that all kids could enter into the text, have the same basic understanding, and be able to have conversations within the classroom. It allows a lot of student choice, small group work, and interactive projects that they absolutely loved. They found the teacher tools for planning to be super easy to use, very easy to modify with a lot of great recommendations. The sidebars of the teachers' manuals had great recommendations for teachers, like on demand as they're teaching through the lessons. Working through the technology to provide the student experience within the classroom was very intuitive and very easy for them to follow. I mean, they basically said it didn't miss a beat. Like, it was so easy to use, the text was so engaging, and it was teacher friendly that they couldn't say enough about it. Where the others, they felt like the texts were a little bit outdated and the kids just weren't as engaged, with the exception of 7th grade. 7th grade really liked the texts of the first pilot.
So it kind of blew out the competition.
It really did.
Interesting. Okay, I'm excited. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay.
All right.
Thank you and your team for all the thoroughness work done on this, and I look forward to for all coming to fruition. Should be exciting.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you
And
so
I'll
much.
have that information and consent for next
Great.
week.
Okay, next up is the Clear Touch panel purchase. Alicia, you are up. Sorry, you're not Mr. Camardo's favorite presentation.
Still have a chance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
So far.
Chance.
Good evening, everybody. So tonight, I just wanted to come to you with a proposal for Clear Touch panel installation purchase for 5 panels at Prairie Trails and 10 panels at the middle school. So once we finish, if we do the 5 panels at Prairie Trails, that school will be completed with their full Prairie Trails integration. So these 5 would be for the STEAM room, the final kindergarten room, the remaining preschool rooms, 2 of those, and then 1 intervention room. And so that would be the 5. And then the 10 at River Trails at the middle school, those 10 will be put into teachers' rooms who have submitted like a request and application, because we really wanted teachers to be excited to kind of be the first wave at the middle school. So that's the intention of where those panels will be placed. The quote that I received from AVI in February for that initial Indian Grove purchase of the panels remained the same, so that would be the same. That was the same quote, but then I got 2 additional quotes as well, and so AVI was the winning quote, and so that is the recommendation for purchase that I'm bringing to you tonight.
You said installation, or were you self-installing these, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great question. Anybody else? Part of my the dinner tonight before the meeting was that I had with a couple members of the union. Now they're at Euclid, but I specifically asked them how they liked the clear panel and the touch panel, and they couldn't stop talking about how much they raved about it. So I'm very excited to expand it and get it into more classrooms. It's just a win for us. So, but again, please.
For the middle school, did you get any applications that you couldn't fulfill? Like, is there demand?
Yes, I think especially after the initial 10 were identified, we had a few extras a little bit later that said, actually, I'm really interested because we have the one panel that was here last time that's on a cart that we have kind of been going around to different middle school classrooms that were interested, and a few of the teachers who got the panel in their room after our last, when we had the application kind of closed, they reached out to see, is it too late? And sadly it was too late at that time, but they'll, be able to have an opportunity in the future.
Okay, and again, this is going to be on the consent agenda next month, unless there are any major objections. And again, kind of speak now or see it next month. Hearing none, we'll move forward to the certified staff device refresh.
So, as mentioned in the presentation from last month, our plan for staff devices, as they are, the current PCs are at the end of their life cycle right now, is to consolidate staff devices and to provide staff with one device as opposed to the 2 that we have been providing. And that device would be a Chromebook Plus, which is a kind of a newish model of Chromebook that's built for adult productivity. And so it has to meet certain specifications of RAM, memory, things like that. So it's a higher powered Chromebook. And we had gone and gotten 3 quotes, and in fact, the winning quote, the winning bid from Forward Edge, we finalized that quote after going back and forth and really, getting them to come down and to give us a great price. That was finalized on Wednesday and Thursday. That's where this number comes from. But then over the past 2 days, pretty much the entire computer industry, Acer, Dell, Lenovo, etc., they've made all of their quotes null and are on hold. So even quotes that they've issued due to the tariffs. And so even the quotes that they've issued, such as we were given the quote from Lenovo on Thursday morning, the tariffs were announced Wednesday. And then the companies kind of scrambled to discuss amongst themselves what are they going to do. And so I've been speaking, I actually spoke with the CEO of Forward Edge this afternoon, and just explained our timeline and how the boards, how it works, how purchasing works, and how we had a board meeting tonight, and I needed to know, is the quote that they gave us this past Thursday, is that still going to be honored? And he was able to say that it would not be, and that really so Lenovo, Acer, all of the other companies, they basically are telling their vendors, wait for a few days. Likely we'll find out actually what the new kind of pricing will look like within the week. But unfortunately, just due to our board schedule, that's just, we don't have it today. They can't give us a new price for today. So we do expect to have a new price within the week. It may have a shorter quote timeline just because of the volatility due to the tariffs right now. And so the plan to bring a proposal to you next month. It may be able to be just information, but it may need to be information action just because of a timeline of the quote and then also the timeline of when we need the devices to be shipped in order to get them before the next school year, because shipping times are also taking longer. And just one additional piece of context is that some vendors, they do have stock in the stock. So those would not be susceptible to tariffs if we were to buy from a vendor that had certain devices in stock. The model that we were looking to purchase, however, that's a made to order, basically. So what they do is they contact their company, and their plants had been in China, but then within the last few years, they moved them to Vietnam to hopefully avoid this sort of a thing, but now Vietnam has tariffs applied to it. So basically they tell the manufacturer in Vietnam, China, wherever, here's what we need, 175 Lenovo Chromebook Pluses. They make them there and then they ship them. So that's kind of why we're caught up in this whole tariff situation. So
Question based off of where the prices could go because of the tariffs, is there any plan to look at a different model?
yeah, we'll definitely wait and see. Like I said, they should have the pricing out to us within the next few days. And so we'll compare that with, we do have a vendor that has another model that we had been looking at as we were doing our piloting that does have stock in this model. So we'll look at that. We'll just kind of have to compare. But we're definitely not opposed to pivoting if that makes the most sense. So we're open. We just want to see what the pricing comes in at with the Lenovo's first.
Any questions?
Yeah, so this isn't listed as an action item, but is there, because technically we vote on it next month and then you purchase them.
So, yeah, next month will be information again, for sure, because we anticipate that things will settle and or change in the next week. So that's going to be Alicia's next couple of weeks, is just monitoring the situation. So for sure, information next month, and it may look totally different, but as she said, it may be info in action if we have the right price, the right device, and the timeline is short.
Well,
for
where I
all
was
of that.
going with that is because it's a rather fluid, some would say completely disorganized, chaotic kind of thing going on here. Can we offer some kind of flexibility to the administration to, again, we're not voting on it here, but just have a consensus to give you some flexibility that, hey, if you find a lot of these in, a warehouse that don't, come under the tariff and they're within a reasonable price, to discretionarily purchase it so that we're not a bottleneck here.
Well, it's a lot of money, so
It is a lot of money, but I mean, I would
let's just
still.
take a couple weeks and see how things unfold. And I will keep you guys up to date in the weekly update. I just don't want to react too quickly. And if things come next month and we're still all over the place, then I would feel more comfortable with that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, because I actually do have a question. So in order for your team to have them in hand, to have them prepped for that August date that you mentioned, like when would be the latest that you would have to have these by?
If we could get them by early August, because since they're Chromebooks, they are a lot easier to deploy
Transfer all
and
of
transfer.
okay. Yeah.
But also, my team already discussed, since it's not students, which is a bigger logistical hurdle, it's staff. Even if we have to go into the beginning of the school year, that's not the worst thing in the world. So we do have a little flexibility because it's a little easier to swap out devices with staff.
Okay,
That is preferable, but
I do have one more very important question here. Does Bob like these machines? Okay, good.
Any
Other questions? Okay. Thank you. For the record, Mrs. B&Q arrived at 7:30. So if you could note that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Noted.
Thank you. Next up is Business Services, our staffing plan for 25-26. Brian, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. So as of right now, our recommendation is to hire 2 additional instructional teaching assistants for next year. One to be placed at Euclid and the other to be placed at the middle school for the multilingual program. I'd love to give big kudos to Ms. Seifert and Dr. Cohen for kind of putting together the instructional aid allocation sheet that's attached to the board book. It was nice to kind of have that set so that we know and we kind of have a very systematized way of placing aids in all the schools in our specialized classrooms. We are not recommending any current new licensed staff positions for next year, but we are watching 3 specific positions. Currently, 4th grade at Euclid is high, but we're waiting for some test scores and other preliminary numbers to come back before we decide whether or not to add another teacher. Currently, there are 4 sections. Next year, we're looking at only having 3 sections, but a lot of the students are pulled out during major instructional time throughout the day to reduce the class size for our in-classroom teachers. The other one that we are watching is a multilingual program over at the junior high. Currently, one of the multilingual teachers is split between multilingual education classes and general education classes. And we're trying to, if we move her to complete ML, then we'd really be losing a few sections of the general ed teachers that we'll need in order to keep those class sizes relatively intact also. And then lastly, kindergarten. We are currently at 6 sections for next year, although this year we're at 7, and that's just one of those ones you really don't know if you have all the students just quite yet, but we haven't kind of reached that threshold yet to add another staff member in kindergarten. Any questions about staffing for next year? We do expect to have final recommendations with a little asterisk of if there's a bunch of move-ins in the summer, things might obviously change, but we do expect to have final recommendations at next month's board meeting.
Any questions?
Sorry, it was about the bubble grade at Euclid, and I know Becky already had brought it up, but like so are we reducing? I'm sorry, because maybe I was misunderstanding like how this grade was pointed out. So if I know we're not gaining another.
Right. So that
FTE?
one was a mistake, and it was kind of originally just moving down all the staffing, but then re-examining it. That one additional staff in that grade level shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. So overall.
So we're not losing any EA, but we're not gaining any. We're losing a section. Is this individual?
We're losing a section because currently they have 4 sections at 3rd grade,
mm-hmm.
and next year we're only recommending 3 sections right now.
Right. Are you talking about people
because
or positions?
People. Sorry. People.
Yes. Well, we had a resignation in December,
mm-hmm.
and then we also, there's somebody I'm not thinking of.
So we'll have some adjustments.
There's a few retirements, there's some adjustments, but
the space is open.
The space is open, we're
okay.
not riffing anybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
Sorry. That was the best way to say it. Thank you.
All 3 of those licensed positions would be additional staff hires than where we're currently sitting right now.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, it's different if you're talking about actual bodies, like people.
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
No,
Yeah, and that's what you were asking, right?
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Anybody else?
You know, I know we're looking just, primarily on counts, student counts, but are we, I'm sure you are, these are a little bit of rhetorical questions, but are you taking into account, maybe a grade that's struggling a little bit or behind, or that, on certain, just workload instances,
sure.
Just things like that.
Yeah.
And, I think I said before that this is one area where, just staffing appropriately really, that's primarily what we do here.
Yeah.
So.
In March, basically cabinet sits down with each of the principals and they complete a packet, we call it a budgeting worksheet, but a big chunk of that is staffing, and so that is when the principals will advocate or inform us like, hey, this second grade class is struggling, or this third grade class has this unique difference that maybe the other ones do not, but they really tell the story, and they will ask for the staffing, or just as we say, we're watching this section, they'll provide a lot of that detail that we may not get from just pulling a report.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Look forward to the final one pretty soon. Next up is a construction update. Ryan, you still have the floor.
All right, so spring break was very busy here in District 26. So just a few highlights: installation of a new electrical panel over at Indian Grove, new fire suppression equipment in the gymnasium, and the removal of some trees. Also at Euclid, continuing to kind of knock out some of the punch list and prepare to finish everything in the summer. The new electrical feed into Indian Grove started, so there will be a new pole and feed and transformer. So as you can see here in the picture on the left is actually a trench that they had to dig and take out sections of the sidewalk into Indian Grove in the back by the electrical boiler rooms right now. And then they replaced the sidewalk by Thursday and did a very nice job. The initial first switchgear, the first of 3, was installed on the back wall. You can see in the picture on the left somebody installing the pad that the switchgear sits on, and then on the right, that big metal box all the way in the right of the picture is the new switchgear put in place and ready to go. And it's really important that we were able to do this during spring break because it allows us to kind of start the process with ComEd. ComEd is on their own timeline. We were able to start early last year as well, and it took ComEd about 12 weeks since we got the A-OK from the transformer to when they actually were able to come in and switch over the electrical panels, which was, I believe, in August. I mean, we were getting worried, so it took quite a while. So we were able to get this, start the process with ComEd, is really allowing us to get going on the project for the summer. The new transformer pad was put in, as you can see the before picture on the left with the juniper and the big rock, and then it looks a little dull as of right now, but just wait, we'll spruce it up. That's my tree.
I think it looks nice and clean. It looks nice and neat.
It does look nice and neat.
Well, that before picture is pretty old because the roof is.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Well, that was just last summer, right before they
It was
started
right before
construction.
construction.
We do the.
It's less than a year
We do
ago.
the roof panels during spring break. We used to do the concrete work during spring break.
But the roof, we did the.
That's the old roof.
That's from a year ago.
Yeah, that's from.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Moving on to the fire suppression work in the gymnasium. It's kind of hard to see on the picture on the left, but you can kind of see some of the black pipe going through the top of the gym. I tried to zoom in on the picture to the right, and there's some also some red conduit also for this fire suppression. It's very important that we were able to do that because much like Euclid's job last summer, we're going to use the gym for a lot of storage. So the fact that they could run all the pipes, get all the lifts in there before we filled it with current furniture will really save us some time, energy, and money for storage things for the current furniture in the building. So that was great. And then lastly, trees. So as you can see here on the 2 north open corridors, to me this was kind of a cloudy day, but it looks so much cleaner and brighter without some of the trees there. We are working on, again, kind of creating some other opportunities to revitalize the area. And then I believe the last picture is the open courtyard in the southwest section of Indian Grove, which there were 2 more trees. Again, on a day like today, it's brighter, it's pretty, it's clean, and looks nice. Again, to kind of keep knocking out the punch list over at Euclid, we were able to get our benches installed back by the playground, and then a few pieces of concrete were originally tilted the wrong way so that we're able to get water away from the school as opposed to piling it back at the school. More Euclid punch list stuff, unfortunately, we'll have to wait until the end of the year, and that's just due to timing and getting in there without kids for an elongated portion of time. A question has come up about tariffs and how they are affecting some of our other purchases. We had a construction meeting today and basically verified the contracts that we signed and the board approved are the contracts that the vendors and contractors all have going forward, and they all know that. It was under my understanding a few years ago at COVID, there were a couple contractors that kind of came back and said, listen, we've got these big increased costs, how can we work this out? And our construction manager said that they all know it's all on them. So we've been working with them. We've had bi-weekly meetings it's April, so for 4 months now. They've gotten all their submittals. Many of them have already ordered and have received many of the supplies that they will use. So that I don't see as a factor moving forward, at least on our end, with the district's end financially moving forward for construction.
It's still, watch some of the contract language. They could, just say that they could just, if there's material costs increase at a certain point where they could just not do the work. And I guess that's if you're running a business and suddenly your costs go up to a point where you're paying to do a job, they might choose just not to do it.
True.
And I don't think anybody, everybody's still trying to figure out exactly what it means to their costs.
Yeah.
So,
luckily, we're not engaging in any major additions or to where we'd have to really worry about buying more steel and large quantities of steel. There are some room changes, some wall shifts where they'll use metal studs. There is some new plumbing fixtures going in.
Flooring.
What's that?
Flooring.
Flooring. A lot of the flooring comes from overseas, but that should have been ordered months ago. We do have some flooring that we were told will not meet the timeline, and we'll have to pick some new flooring, but they've basically just said something about the timeline, nothing about cost. So if they want to do the rest of the project, then
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Berry. Next up, our committee updates. We only have one, NSSCO. It's a big one. Mr. Ronson, you are our rep.
Yes, so we've lots of activity. One of the biggest things I forgot to mention last month was that we hired a new principal for Kirk. That was very exciting. I got a chance to meet with her along with Dr. Schnorr, and it was I think really some positive changes at the school, and I'm very excited to have her back. She actually used to work at NSSCO years ago, and so she's coming back. The other big news, which there's a summary here in the attachments about the strategic plan and the governance stuff that we've been talking about. I want to thank Bill and Donna for coming to the last meeting. A lot of discussions and back and forth about how best to gain everybody's participation and collaboratively come up with a path forward to improve communication and move things forward with the strategic plan. So I also want to thank Dr. Schnorr, who's here, Mr. McGinn, and all the other member districts superintendents who participated in the process. And I think really happy with the outcome here. We're certainly going to review this in next year, but in a nutshell, the plan is to have or Dr. Schnorr is going to call an administrative meeting for the superintendents so that they can all meet and collaborate and get things worked out behind the scenes. Doing that in that manner that they can operate outside of OMA rules. So and that's not to say that not everything will be brought forward into the governing board meetings for approval, really just kind of like they are, but this method will allow them to work behind the scenes to, flush out, really solid recommendations that are coordinated amongst the member districts. Any questions? Okay, and then I think we have Dr. Schnorr and Mr. McGinn here to present the budget, which I'm very thankful for that. And I think this is the first time in 6+ years as a board member that we've had somebody from NSSEO out here to talk. So,
we're very happy to be here. I'm Meg Schnorr. I'm the proud superintendent of NSSEO, and we're very happy to be here tonight. Myself and Gavin McGinn, our CSBO and Assistant Sup for Business Services. And District 26 is one of 8 member districts for NSSEO, and there used to be a commercial years ago where the tagline was, now I just lost it, right? Membership has its privileges. So I just want you guys to know that part of your membership in NSSEO affords you the opportunity to have placements for your students with severe, complicated special needs. If you have a move-in tomorrow who has really significant needs that can't be met at one of your many beautiful schools and your very talented staff, Dr. Cohen calls me or one of the other administrators at NSSEO, and we assure them that we will be providing programming for your student who happened to just move in, or what have you. They're presenting with some type of disability that is keeping them from being able to progress in the general education curriculum within your schools. And the great thing about that is they're still in their community. I will tell you that NSSEO has a waiting list. Member district is never put on the waiting list. We always make room for our member districts, and that is the biggest, I think, the biggest benefit of membership. But we do have waiting lists at all of our schools of about 30 students of people outside of our member districts who do not have placements for their special needs students and who are looking. So when Gavin is presenting the financial information, I just wanted you to keep that in mind. And we are very grateful to the support of District 26. And with that, I'm going to let Gavin present the budget, and then we're available for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to start with just a quick review of our budget process. So we start budgeting in December. It's when I reach out to the admin reps at all of our member districts, start getting enrollment information, some of the purchase services that you may be looking at for the coming years. So then we have our first finance committee in January, which is made up of all 8 member district CSBOs, admin reps, NSSEO administration, a couple board members sit in on those as well. In January, we establish the insurance rates, workers' comp, we look at IMRF, TRS, all of those rates that end up feeding into the budget. So in January, we review those. In January and February, me and my team work, and that's where we kind of use those to come up with the tuition rates at our programs. So we look at enrollment, we look at staffing, we look at all of those things, and we come up with the tuition rate that's brought back to the Finance Committee in early March. We also look at purchase service costs. So we have a really robust purchase service menu, I guess you can call it, but we have OTs, PTs, assistive tech, adaptive PE, all of those things, and both our member districts and non-member districts can purchase those services from us. So we take the time to kind of come up with average costs for those purchase services that, again, get built into the budget. And so then after those rates are kind of reviewed and approved by the Finance Committee, we meet again at the end of March, which is when your districts are provided with their individual budgets. Then in April and May, your districts here get to review them, get to approve them, and bring them back to our board meeting in June for final approval before it's sent to the state. For next year, the 2 schools that impact you are Minor and Timber Ridge. Those are elementary schools. Minor's tuition went up by about 3.8%, and Timber's went up by 3.72%, which again are pretty much right in alignment with our contract increases for next year for our staff. Next page, so we do run a zero balance budget, which means our revenues and expenditures match exactly. So, and then at the end of the year, any money that's left over in any of our programs gets sent back out to all of our member districts. So once the audit's complete, we kind of looked at our unreserved fund balance, and anything left over gets sent back to you guys. On the right, you kind of see our overall budget in the top. I did add the second part in the bottom, so we do have to add about $9 million in for pension liabilities. That the money never actually flows to our district, but we have to add it into the audit report. I'm sure you're all aware. And we do have about $3 million in HVAC expenditures for a HVAC project at our Kirk school. So I removed those two things just because those are kind of the Kirk thing. Once it's done, it's not going to be something that reoccurs. So you can see that there's about a 1.5% increase from this year's amended budget to next year's budget. The next slide here is probably most important for you guys. So this is a really clear breakdown of all of the purchased services and enrollment for District 26 specifically. So you can see that you have 5 students at Timber, 8, I'm sorry, I can't see that well, 8 at Minor, and then 1 at our DHH elementary program. And then below that, you see some of the purchase services that you're projected to purchase for next year. So some OT support, some physical therapist support, assistive tech, vision. We have a DHH itinerant program that comes out and serves, and then some coaching support. So this is probably the most important thing. This is on the budget PDF that I sent out to all of you. I would always recommend looking at the last 3 pages. Those are the District 26 specific pages. The pages before that are kind of our funding formula, some staffing information, things like that. But these 3 are going to have the most impact on your district directly. And then the last page is, again, just kind of an overall snapshot. So this is your students. And then I did include a little graph here that shows where your budget was at last year. The amended 1 number is kind of where you stand currently. So sometimes you might have students move in, move out, things like that. So that's where you're at currently this year, and then on the right column is the projection for next year. And again, I showed you had purchased services in the past of 0.4 OT, some PT and some coaching, and next year you're looking to add some vision services, some additional OT support, and some AT support. So overall, it leads to an increase of about $150,000 for next year. I like to always say that this is a projection, so again, you may have 2 new students move in next year, and this may go up from where this stands right now. You may have 2 move out, and your budget will go down. We're not going to bill you for these numbers right here. It's really early. It's March. It's April. By the time we get to August, by the time we get to next December, things will change. They do change. So you're only billed for the actual students that end up in attendance. And with that, I don't really have anything else. Does anyone have any questions or need any clarification?
Well, just first of all, I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Ronson said. Thank you both for coming out. It's great to see you guys. It's nice to have you guys come to one of my meetings instead of one of yours. But you're always welcome. Please realize that. Love to see you. Love to have any updates that you want to have. Mr. Ronson gives us great updates, but anytime you want to come, you're more than welcome. So to that point, does anybody have any questions?
I have one question. It's another rhetorical question. You talked about the benefits of membership, and it is really key that NSSEO doesn't turn away kids. Is there any financial benefits to being a member?
Yes. So I didn't really get into that, but we do charge our non-member districts an additional 30% in tuition. So that does help offset our member tuition, keeps the member tuition lower. And they also do pay into our other programs. So we own Sunrise Lake, which is the outdoor education center. So we have them pay into every single aspect of NSSEO and everything that our members pay into. We also have them pay into it, including our building fund, including our capital improvements reserve, all of those things. We want to make sure that they're helping contribute to everything that our member districts have.
And last year we were charging per student $2,000 towards our facilities fund, and this year we're going to be charging $4,000, so that there's less that the member districts are dependent on. Because to be honest, the outside districts, the non-member districts, they'll pay whatever it takes to get into NSSEO programs. So, I mean, we have a student who's coming as far away as Keeneland, Illinois, to come to Kirk School. So that's how desperate other districts are.
Any other questions? Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you again.
All right.
Next up is the President's Report. A lot of stuff going on here. We have a school dance at Indian Grove on Friday night at 6:30. It's neon, so reach into your 80s closet and see what you got there. We have first grade music sharing on April 24th. Breakfast with Buddies on April 29th and 30th at 7:45. At Euclid, we've got first, second, and third grade music sharing on April 10th. Muffins and Munchkins on April 11th at 7:45. Fourth and fifth grade music sharing and chorus May 1st. At Prairie Trails, we've got the Prairie Trail School Prom on April 25th, and if I remember correctly, last year it got a rousing response from the board, so I'm looking forward to that. At the middle school, if you've never been to Hero Night, absolutely go to Hero Night. It's really, really cool. It's really inspiring. Hero Night's on April 15th at 7 p.m. Beginner Band and Orchestra Concert May 5th at 7 p.m. We have our next board meeting May 6th here at the middle school. It is our last meeting of our year, and it will be our reorg of the next board. For district news, we've got in-person residency for April 17th, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Euclid and Indian Grove. And then we also have it on the 18th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Euclid and Indian Grove. Next up, we've also got board news. Just kind of one last chance. Is there any interest in the following positions, president, vice president, or secretary for the 25-26 school year? I have had one person give me an interest in kind of a succession plan, so that is reflecting in our committee assignments, which is next up. I worked with Mrs. Friedland, and then we kind of bounced some ideas off of Dr. Meggerly and come up with our committee assignments for the next year. So if you could, please take a look at that. And if you could let me know very soon if you've got any issues so I can reconvene with Mrs. Friedland and come up with a plan B. So please take a look at that. And then we're also looking at our board meeting calendar updates for the 25-26 school year. Looking over the proposed calendar dates, we will continue with the second Tuesday of each month unless otherwise noted. So please let us know if there's any big issues, and are you guys all kind of in agreement with the proposed calendar? Just kind of thumbs up, or we want to make sure we're on Lewis's birthday. So he's got nowhere to go.
Late September.
Oh, darn. Okay, then we'll kind of go forward with everything as is. If there's any changes or any comments you want to make, I'm free. Give me a call, give me an email. I'm happy to hear from you. Okay, and then we're still in. Did we get the reports? Were all that you needed signed? Were in our folders today?
Just before the end of the night. If it's in front of you, I'll take it.
Yeah, there were some forms that you needed to sign. I know I had mine. I had to sign. So please make sure you check in with Patty before you leave. If not, she will open up a can of whoop. You know what I mean. Next up, we're already looking at III for next year. We had a shift last year to the Sheridan, which unfortunately Mrs. Bianchini wasn't part of. She was still at the Hyatt because of the scholarship, which was great. But I believe the Sheridan was very well received. Just wondering what everyone's opinion is. Want to go back? Yes? No complaints? Okay. So there you go.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And that's it for the President's report. Dr. Meggerly, you have the Superintendent's report.
Forgot what was in it. So much good stuff tonight. So a couple of things in my superintendent report is just bringing back the consolidated district plan, and that's an annual piece. And then wanted to give you a brief update on 2 of the audits that we had this year. So just as a reminder, the consolidated district plan we've brought the last couple of years. We don't need to bring it to you for approval, but we just like to because it really includes the meat of everything that we're doing in our grants for the upcoming year. So the CDP, it just basically outlines how we use our federal grants and other funding to meet our student needs. So it is a big chunk of spending for our special population, so we always feel that it's important for you to know, or at least have access to what we're spending that on. I added a slide that lists all the grants that we do take advantage of, everything from our Title I's, and then we have IDEA, special education, preschool, things of that nature. Any questions on the, yes?
I would just like to comment that this document, the consolidated district plan, is where, you said there's a wealth of information. This is where I drew a lot of information from for our application to the IASB for the award we won.
Yeah.
So it does have a wealth of information in it, and it's the type of thing I like to read. So
We know you're going to
thank
read
you
it,
very
although
much.
it doesn't download very nice, so the font isn't great, but
Yes, I know.
but I think it does. It's a one-stop shop for everything that we're working on.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I appreciate it.
all right, excellent. So we had 2 audits this year. Lucky us. We Chrissy and I got an email in early October from ISBE letting us know that they were doing an audit on our multilingual programs, students, staffing, everything. And then shortly after that, we got another email saying that North Cook was going to do a compliance review which is basically everything from personnel to student records to policy, everything. Lucky me, I was able to choose the date for the actual audit, so I chose the latest. And so we just had it last month in March. So really the general process of the audits is at some point, like our portals were different to upload information, but basically they want information from you. And so the portal opens, we give them what we have, and there's a due date for that. There's always an on-site visit. Sometimes there's a tour, there's meetings with principals, interviews with various staff, and they collect some additional information. Once that is complete, they send us an action report. Basically all of the things that we don't have in place or the things that we did wrong. And so that action report then requires development. And so Christy's was a little bit more detailed than mine, but she had to address like 19 different areas that they considered not in alignment. And so you have to put together a plan and you resubmit your action report then of how you're going to fix this. And then they review it, they provide feedback. Obviously the goal is for us to meet all those requirements. So in terms of the specific timeline for the multilingual audit, those are just the dates of what that timeline, all those components, what that looked like. So for the most part, it was wrapped by November. They did a very good job of getting us our report a lot sooner, I think, than we anticipated. And of course, Christy returned it right back with the action plan. And then they basically gave us a gold star that said that they accepted it. The North Cook audit, same thing, as I mentioned, we got an early notification. So that gave us a long time to submit all of our evidence in the portal. There were hundreds of items. And so because I had a long timeline, I had the opportunity to correct some things along the way before the March visit. And I really enjoyed the audit. It's probably something that Donna would enjoy too, but it really was just it was a good opportunity, one, to know like these forms that you had to sign, like I wouldn't have known. I had no idea that those things were required. And so it gives that's the whole purpose of an audit. But it was a good opportunity to make sure things were aligned. So like for me, I was really looking at policy, what was posted on our website, did it match, and what is in our handbook. All of those things should be the same, obviously. But as policies change, as the websites get updated, as a school year goes on and a handbook gets recreated, sometimes those things get missed. So it was a good opportunity to make sure our website had what it was supposed to have on it and things all matched. As you know, I brought forth that parent advisory committee. I mean, again, that was another thing that I corrected on the front end that we were able to just get in order before the visit. So I don't have a full summary report yet. And I do have a few items that are not in compliance that need addressing. Like one was these forms. I'll turn them in tomorrow. Another one brought to my attention was it's actually Natalie Hudson's certificate and her job title. So Natalie's job title is multifaceted because Prairie Trails is a smaller school and we knew we needed an assistant principal of sorts there, but she also takes on, she's also the director of other special programs. So she worked closely with Christy on the multilingual audit. She does a lot with our multilingual across the district. So she takes on other things other than just assistant principal at Prairie Trails. And we knew that going in. So she's got a dual title. But North Cook does not like her title as assistant principal because her admin certificate is director of special ed, not a type 75, which is an admin certificate. So this is where things in terms of compliance are literally just compliance. So it's really just a matter of her title, her half title on her job description as assistant principal, that they are asking for that to change. And so everything else about what she does, her job description as written, nothing is changing except 2 words on the title. And so I bring this to you. I mean, they expected me to just change it right away in the system, but I bring it to you because this was a new position that we added to Prairie Trails, and I just, again, in terms of transparency and the learning process and all of this compliance business, it's one, it's a learning opportunity, but 2, I didn't feel right just making the change without bringing it to you. So if you have any other technical questions about anything that makes up Ms. Hudson's job or anything else, feel free to ask me outside of an open session if you feel that it's warranted. But that to me is just so compliance based, it's really just hard to swallow. My argument is that I would argue that having a special ed degree to be an assistant principal is more needed than just the admin piece, but that's that. So that's just, those are the last 2 compliance pieces for the audit. In terms of next steps, one, I had to put like a thank you in here in case I forgot, because so many people had to be part of collecting evidence for this audit. Dr. Cohen was interviewed. Ms. Seifert was interviewed. Ms. Seifert's section on curriculum was at least 300 bits long. Mr. Berry had a section. 2 people in HR. Patty was pulling policies. And so, they had to do all of that work, but then put aside time to be interviewed. And I do believe, and this is not going to surprise anyone, but I do believe that the team at North Cook said that Christy's compilation of her stuff was the best that they've ever seen. So the other districts are going to be in trouble. But anyways, it's a lot of work. And then to address any items of concern. So I think the other piece with the multilingual, we're not completely out of compliance, but I know that you've heard us talk about our fluctuation of numbers. So if you have 20 more students of a singular language in a building, you're supposed to offer a program in that native language. And so we are the perfect size district to sometimes hit the 20, and then next year sometimes hit the 18, and then sometimes we're 20, and sometimes so we are on the bubble of some of these languages. Some of them you've heard us bring to you, like, oh, we need a multilingual Malayalam teacher to serve this program, and then the next year if the kids move to the middle school, that all changes. So that is one area, is the number of students and offering the programs that the state wants us to. So Christy's looking at more of a long-term timeline for that. We want long-term solutions. We don't want to just Band-Aid things, and hiring people for a year to service a population, that's not a long-term solution. So she's working on that over the course of a couple of years. These forms that you guys signed, like Patty and I talked about putting that into the onboarding process so that it, again, becomes a system and not just like, oh, we'll never remember to do this again. So that's the goal. Any questions? It's not super exciting, but.
Thank you for doing it, first of all.
No choice.
Well,
Yes.
It's true. But it's done. It's checked off.
But thank you for doing it so well and so efficiently,
No doubt.
and just keeping in context that they do have to find something. So therefore, if they're finding something as 2 words is the fix,
Yeah,
that
I'm sure you
means
know
what an
this all too well.
amazing job,
Yeah.
what an amazing job you actually did in
So they
that.
do this every year, and will it be easier next year?
I think it's every 5 years or every 4 years, and this, you know, again, I feel like sometimes the state is behind, so I wouldn't say that they would be on a good cycle for like another multilingual audit in 4 years. So sometimes you just don't know. I think they were way behind. Like we haven't had an audit. Yeah.
This was the first since I've
Yeah, so more than 7 years for multilingual.
Wow. Thank you. Anything else? All right, we had a couple FOIA requests. Thank you, Patty, or Mr. Barry, or whoever had to do. Everyone. We didn't have any emails from the public, so there's nothing to report there. Next up is future topics. We have no current pending future topics. Is there any topics someone would like to propose for the future for consideration? All right, hearing none. Let me entertain a motion in a second to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:43.
That was way off.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Ronstadt, second by, who was that? By Bianchini. Yes.
I knew, I just wanted you to be happy.
Bianchini? Fister?
Yes.
I vote yes. Camardo?
Yes.
Grimpy?
Yes.
Ronstadt?
Yes.
Friedland?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
We're adjourned at 8:44. See you back here.